the start of when you're writing your essays, you kind of don't know what you're doing and don't know what you're supposed to write about, etc.
I will be attending USC. I'm going to Barnard College,
Yale,
Uchicago,
Princeton, Yale University,
Harvard, the University of Pennsylvania.
So for me, I don't know what, I can only write between like 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Any other time, I just like my writing, I could write, but it just sounds really bad. Like it just, I don't know, it just hits me at night. Maybe you just have to find your time and space where you are like, your thoughts are very clear and you are like very grounded and you can remember the really important things to you without distractions. You know, that's probably the best time to write.
I feel like for personal statement, at least I approach it the way I didn't go with like one idea and I already started writing like the essay outline for it. I had like at least brainstormed like 30 different topics, and like within the 30 I thought about like the different things I could write to it or like what side of it showed. And then within it I picked like 3 or 4 out and I began writing like a draft for the 3 or 4, and then at the end I only edited like 1 or 2, so then it was like I chose from a large pool so I could show like the best thing that I want to show.
I've changed my personal statement like a bunch of times. And I think one thing that is like you need to take note of is don't think it's like cushy to start all over again, and you don't need to be stuck in that like, oh, I need to use this passage. Like don't be stuck in that, confined in that thing, because that kind of happened to me. And I think that if you think there's something that I can write about, like you could just literally start over. They always tell you to start your essay early, and I think that's super important because something I've realized is that when you're writing your essay and you're reading it over and over again, you're very familiarized with it.
Yeah.
So you don't really see what's wrong with it. So I think it's really important to let it sit, like don't like touch it for a week or 2. And then when you go back and you read on it, then you'll realize like what exactly is wrong and what's not like working.
Honestly, the most important thing is to just get things on the paper. Because like, I think you just have to realize that like, no matter if it's personal statement or supplemental, you're going to have a lot of drafts. Like that's inevitable. Like you just have to know that like after you edit it like multiple times, it's gonna get good to a point where you think it's good enough to submit to colleges.
Don't be worried about spending a lot of time in the brainstorming process. It might feel like you're wasting time because you're not putting words on the paper, but you are actually doing a lot. Because, for example, even if an idea doesn't work for the personal statement, you can still use it for the supplements later or any other smaller questions later. Being able to brainstorm maybe like 6 or 7 major events or themes in your life that you feel like convey a different aspect of yourself and your personality is very, very important. And I feel like having that plan rather than just going in to write whatever you want immediately could make the process later much more efficient and effective.
My writing process was dependent on the deadline. So like without pressure from inching closer to ED or RDs, I wouldn't have like written my essays. So which is why I didn't really work on them during the summer. But like I think summer was mainly for me just like brainstorming and like testing things out, because like the start of when you're writing your essays, you kind of don't know what you're doing and don't know what you're supposed to write about, etc. And you kind of get the hang of it later on. So it's like it was a very slow process for me, but yeah, I got motivation from deadlines.
I guess I'll give advice to like the people who are watching this video in October and you're a senior and you're about to start, and this is how you can still apply early and not have it go horribly wrong. So the first thing I did was I watched this YouTube video, and then the woman in the YouTube video was like, when I applied to college, I started my essay writing process by making a mood board, and then I decided like the type of character I wanted to be, and then I added like movie scenes and like lyrics and shit, but I didn't do that, but I thought that was like pretty cool conceptually. So that's like how I started my 1 week process of writing. On the first day, I just like made a list of character traits, I guess, that I wanted to convey as like the type of person I was, that I wanted college admissions officers to remember. And then after that, kind of just shape your essay around like the character that you created, who is still like you, but is, you know, like a certain side of you?
I had a pretty interesting approach to one of my supplements. I saw the question and it was along the lines of what you hope you'll be able to do if you get into this school and when you're at this school. And I immediately started thinking about like some kind of topics that a lot of people would write about. And I really tried to break through that and think about really creative ways to approach it. And so I did it in the form of like a website post from the university like 4 years later, talking about like something I did at the university instead. And I think that's a little bit more interesting than just saying, I hope, you know, I'll be doing this and whatever.
You know, playing with the medium.
I feel like if you can find one that's like pretty creative and works for you, colleges tend to like that. Like my PS was a list rather than, you know, just a chunk of text. And I think if you can find something creative like that, it shows that you're like someone who thinks outside of the box.
Some people write like poems. Sometimes it could be risky, but if you're really someone who are good at poems and you really want to express yourself in that form of medium, I
Write a
think
Shakespearean
you should try
sonnet.
this with me. Yeah. Oh my
Write
god.
a Shakespearean sonnet, man.
I honestly think that could work if you're like an
If you're,
English major.
yeah.
It's very attractive.
Like the medium also no, but one thing why like using a medium can be very effective is because it doesn't only just convey that you're creative, but that medium itself also says something about you. For example, like a poem for English major, that would be very fitting. Or if you do something part kind of like a research plan for a session, that could be interesting. I'm not sure exactly how you would execute it, but that could be interesting. But whatever, like using the medium itself is like conveying information without actually using words.
And it's incredibly refreshing for the people reading it
Yeah.
to be like, oh, this is, you know, not the standard intro.
Yeah.
It's a word count hack, because now
Yeah,
you have to
exactly.
say like,
Word count.
I like poetry. You could just
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
you say 3 words.
It's just, how did you choose the prompt to write for the Common App? How did you answer? Honestly, I think most people choose the
Same prompt.
no. Like personally, I chose the no prompt. Like,
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a
Yeah.
prompt until I was at the like submitting bid
I chose
window.
a-
Just
Yeah,
write.
exactly. So just write whatever you want to write, and then
Yeah.
I guarantee you there is at least one prompt that will fulfill that. And if there isn't, just go with the no prompt. This I'll choose my own topic. So yeah, it doesn't matter.
There's so many people who've been through so many things. So if you're talking about like you've broken a bone from a sport or like I don't know, just like very common stuff, it's not a wise choice to write those essays because like that essay is really for people who actually been through something that's very traumatic to themselves and how they kind of got over it. You know, so it's like I think that's like really important to notice. And also I did look at this article where they call it like trauma essays, but these kind of like trauma essays are on a rise. So honestly, it's like sometimes it does get into certain colleges, I feel like, but when a lot more people write about those, I feel like it's more strategic to write about something that really shows off who you are as a person and how you will how you would fit with this college, rather than talking about those like small issues compared to like big issues.
Basically, you're saying like don't do a lot. Like there's a lot of sob stories out there that are sadder than yours.
Yeah.
But also I do think that like you shouldn't think that anything if it really like breaking a bone, if it really like changed your life in some way and you can write that, you can show that in your writing, then go for it. I don't think any problem's a small problem.
If it affected you and you think that you became a different person in terms of your personality or intellectually, then do talk about it. But the focus wouldn't be on you breaking a bone. It would be focused on what you learned from it. Honestly, I feel like what actually happened doesn't matter as much as what you gained from it when you reflected, or like the intellectual process.
You can also just talk about the most insignificant thing, and then that could be like
Honestly,
your
sometimes
first.
that works.
Yeah.
I've heard of somebody who wrote a personal statement on maple syrup because they're Canadian.
I
And
heard there's a personal statement I read
Awesome.
of somebody who got into an Ivy League university writing about how they like walking.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
chess.
Yeah.
And like Justin wrote a supplemental on anime, so
Or
Yeah.
about like opening a cap or something.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Opening what? Wait, opening a app?
I remember I heard one was interesting. It was like this guy who got into Northwestern. His thing was about how all humans look like eggs. And oh wait, it's kind of cute. I had you over it. I don't know.
Like Fred and
Wait, what?
That is friends, but they're like dating now.
But they're both very
Are they from our
Dude,
school?
Anyway, guys. Back to time.
One of your best friends, especially later into the admissions, admission cycle, is Command C, Command V, because
You don't always have to be like, okay, this is a new prompt. I have to write something completely new. You can look at something you've written for another school and be like, hey, does this work or does it not? I think that's a much smarter way to look at the process of supplements.
Yeah, also, we're only 18 years old. You're not gonna have 10,000 life stories.
Exactly.
You know, like.
Even
Yeah,
if they're
yeah.
worded differently, it's basically the same thing. So actually, that's why it gets easier as you go into it.
Don't forget to like change the names of
Oh yeah.
I did not change that for one of my schools and I didn't get in. So also keep your like PS drafts that you decided not to keep.
Oh, yeah.
with.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times they can turn into supplements.
Yeah.
Don't just write like, oh, like what you learned from the past, but also how this applies to your future. If that makes sense. Yeah, because like sometimes people just say like, oh, I learned this and it taught me this, so now this is who I am. But then like it's also important to talk about like how this is being brought forward into the future when you're in college or something.
When you are illustrating like a philosophy in any of your essays, though, I do think that you want to consider like what the school's philosophy specifically is as well. So, for example, something like special jack of all trades over specialization. If you send that to CMU, that's questionable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't work, but it depends, you know. But at the same time, if that's your personal statement and then you realize that it doesn't fit well with the school, maybe that's a sign that you just shouldn't apply to that school actually. And you just don't like that school isn't for you.
Yeah.
And so like you can kind of like use the process of writing essays and the process of college research to determine like what schools you actually want to apply to.
Did anybody do a reading list?
Oh, I
did.
had to.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, Columbia requires a reading list.
So for Harvard, they want you to write another 650 word essay with like basically no prompt, but they have like a list of suggested prompts. And I think the one that like you're always told not to do is the reading list one, because you basically like throw away an essay with just a list. But the way like I did it is I wrote a reading list, but like it wasn't actually my reading list. It was like each book was a life lesson. So I guess like the way I thought about the reading list, which might be different from like the usual reading list approach if it's just one supplemental out of many, is like I used each book as like a milestone in my life to kind of like show, I don't know, I guess I kind of just wanted to like subvert the expectation of using the reading list prompt being bad for the additional essay.
Yeah, so I think something like that is much more reality because for Columbia, like the reading list was only like 35 words, so there's not really much room for exploration. Basically, you just list the titles, and then I guess one thing that you could keep in mind is to diversify what types of books you list and how that fits into like the stuff that you like to read as well as your prospective major, whatever. But because the essay was so short, I feel like that was not a very important part of it. Yeah.
Also, don't put like any, I don't know, controversial books on it. Like, don't talk about politics, but if you do, it's better to be liberal.
Activities.
Yeah,
True.
That's
True.
true. That's true.
Something I wanted to say is like you gotta know when to stop at the writing, like when to stop editing. Cause a lot of people, like if you're like me, I have like 20 drafts, right? And then at a certain point, it's like art, right? The more you touch it, at a certain point, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
And even if you feel like you don't really like it or it's not perfect, but you physically do not, like after many, many days of trying, you don't know how to make it better, then maybe it means that is the full potential of this writing. Like sometimes you just gotta admit to yourself, you just gotta stop.
Yeah.
Save yourself some time, save yourself some stress, and just stop. And a lot of times, the easier it is for you to write it, actually the better it is. That just means it flows more naturally and you don't have to squeeze it out of yourself. That means it's like more authentic, you know.
Diminishing marginal returns, guys.
Oh!
There we
Like
go.
try hard but don't try too hard.
And it never hurts to like give it to your friend or the counselors or teachers to read it, you know. You need a fresh pair of eyes.
Oh my god, but another thing, it's like writing is subjective, it's like art. People are gonna tell you a million things all the time. A lot of times they're contradictory. People are gonna be like, do this, do that. Don't listen to them. Like absorb it.
Perspective.
Take it in, but don't like listen to them. Always listen to yourself.
It's
Yeah, it's your essay.
Add on to Sarah's, my PS, people who read it, like maybe like the majority of them were like, what the fuck are you writing about? And I was like, and they're like, I don't get it, blah 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 blah. And I was like, basically like, oh no, like 1 to 2 people were like, yeah, it looks good, and I was just like, whatever, I like it, so I will submit it, and then
Also, honestly, if you know any upperclassmen that like goes to the school or got into the school that you want to go to, like it doesn't hurt to maybe ask them for like their supplemental essays. I feel like personal essays may be a bit too personal, but then like you know those Y school essays.
Yeah, I feel like not only supplementals, like when you're doing Y school, you can always ask like upperclassmen like what they really like about the school, or are there any quirky things about the school that they find very interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like they won't really shut you off when you ask this, like. Yeah, and then I think it'll be really helpful, especially for Y school, when you talk about something that only students on campus would know, because it shows to the college that you really care about it and you did some really thorough research.
It's good when you can't find it on the internet.
Yeah.
I also think like personally for me as an upperclassman, I would never like initiate a conversation with, you know, a current rising senior, like, hey, how are your college apps going? Where are you earlying, you know? So like you have to be the one to like reach out to the upperclassmen, because like most people don't want to bother like the rising seniors in their own like process, and like we feel like it's very stressful to like bring it up to people. So like if you need advice, you need to like bring it up to us, because it's quite awkward the other way around.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, but one other website, I think it's called College Mind or something, or like, you know, there's so many online college counselors or like online college advice that is genuinely helpful. Like you're doing any supplements, search up like if you're applying at NYU, search up NYU like NYU supplement, and there will be so many like essays that worked, and like people who literally break down the essay for you and explain why it works. Like the web tells you so much. Use the internet.
The college essay guy provides a lot of like past essays.
I will say there is one concern with reading past essays though. Like you don't want to like try to like follow it exactly, because honestly you're not sure if that's the essay that got them in anyway.
It's better to look at it instead of essays that worked, but like essays that were a part of an application that worked.
Yeah, I think you can read past essays just to find inspiration and stuff, but like don't have it be like I have to write something on that to get in.
I think mostly you kind of tell like, oh, like all the students are giving this kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
I think it's also like a good reality check, because you can see that it's just like all of these are essays written by high schoolers that are like high school quality, and you know honestly colleges are not looking for anything more from you either.
Okay. Friday, yay.
Yeah.
Wait, that was stolen writing.
I think so.
Are there like spicy questions?
Hello, this is Sarah. I would like to just apologize for the sound quality. I filmed on an iPhone and there's nothing I can do about it now. But also I wanted to acknowledge that we don't know everything, and everything we say is just based off of our own experiences. So what is true for us might not be true for you. So if there's anything that you disagree with, or something we left out that you think is really important, or you just have more questions, definitely let us know in the comments below. And if you found it helpful, send it to your friends, help each other out, and check out the other 7 videos.
Featuring Evelyn and
Guys,
like, subscribe.
hit the notification. I finally understand how hard it is to be a YouTuber.